Hey, Antonio Garcia here. Welcome to this episode on All Things LOCS. Today we have Sorina Tanase. You don't want to miss this, especially if you have parents, uncles, grandparents are going to be moving into potentially into the assisted living space. Sorina Tanase has sold over hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate. She also works with investors, healthcare professionals in learning the ins and out of assisted living and senior housing. Today's episode, we're going to be exploring everything related to that. Check it out. So, Sorina, you spent over 20 years as a assisted living owner operator before you started advising, investors. How was starting at the bottom fundamentally shape you to lead today?
I would recommend anyone to start at the bottom. You have to understand what you're getting yourself into. And I did that on purpose because I've noticed while working at the bottom, I wanted to make sure that this is something that I want to do or not. And once I started doing it, I was able to make a lot of the changes that I had in mind, only because now I had a different understanding.
So if someone's looking to get into really any business or even into kind of the healthcare space, you recommend like, hey, go in kind of a little bit more at the entry level and learn and just grow your way to the top versus going right there to maybe mid-level?
I would say do your homework, research, educate yourself, because you think you're getting into anything with some sort of a knowledge. However, if you're really serious about it, the details is what matters, right? So and if you can't, I would say find a person that has been doing this, that has the knowledge, that you can trust the advice and follow that advice and apply it to you. We all have our own goals and put it through your own filter, quote unquote, right? And see if it's a match for you or not.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're saying that because there's a lot of, at least you see a lot of stuff on social media about people who have 9-to-5 jobs, right? And they're they want that freedom, that time, that money that comes with, that they think comes at least with being an owner or an entrepreneur. And there's a quick rush to get out of a 9-to-5. Instead of taking that approach, which is what could you learn at the job that's going to actually prepare you for that next level. And you mentioned kind of seeing things through a filter, when you're even looking at not just how to build a business, but certain things like leadership and culture, what would you say was a benefit for you, at least, of being able to position yourself in a position where you had an owner that you could either model yourself after or see what's working or see what's not working and then figure out how to apply that when you were ready to start your own business?
Like I mentioned before, it really helped me to start at the bottom. For me, the way I do things, I like to understand very, very well, to the best of my knowledge, what I'm getting myself into. I'm never getting myself into something that somebody says that is a good thing. You should do this, you should do that. I listen, and then I do my own research. And then I do my own, I ask people around and I see if that's a good fit for me or not. But I never take anyone's word for good that's up.
It sounds like you're speaking from experience here. Have you ever had a situation where you just took someone's word for it and you're like, I'm never doing that again? Or has that always been inherent in you that like, I just naturally want to research before I jump into anything?
Comes natural to me, but to your point, that's not to say that once or twice I haven't because I trusted or I admire that person. Right?
Trust me, Serena, it's going to be great. Yes. 500% gains in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Sign me up.
Yes.
So in senior housing, real estate tends to get a lot of the spotlight, but you've said that there's no real estate value without the operator in that space. Can you kind of unpack what that means?
Yeah. So this particular type of properties, if we're talking, a care facility has two main components, right? The real estate and the operations. The value of a real estate is in operation 100% because these properties, whether they're 6 beds or 100 beds, they're heavily remodeled. They're heavily, you have so many handicap and wheelchair accessible to the particular, for the particular goal that they're designed for. And once you don't have an operation, to be able to sell that just as a real estate, it's very, very hard. So the pool of buyers that would always, or investors that would always be interested in just the real estate, it's going to be very, very small. And unless you bring another operator there, so you just become a landlord in case you don't want to be an operator yourself, it's going to be very, very hard to exit.
Yeah, last night you were we grabbed some dinner, and one of the things that you were mentioning is that there's a lot of people in the healthcare space that they look at assisted living, senior housing, that it's a lateral move. It's like, it's almost like an apartment complex, and I'm in healthcare. I know what I'm doing, and they move over and they get basically punched in the teeth.
Yeah.
What are some things that you wish those people knew? That like, hey, these are some areas that it is a pretty close lateral move in healthcare, and these are some stark differences.
I'm going to go back to educate yourself. Anybody, and that I see this as the main problem, especially for people coming from with some sort of a medical background. I work with plenty of, let's say, doctors, nurses, hospice nurses, you name it. And they all think that just because I have that kind of background, oh, I know. And just because they've been in this kind of facilities, oh, I know. No, you don't know. There are so many differences in requirements and responsibilities than what you have in your normal other job. And if I tell a doctor, you can't treat one of the differences would be, or even a nurse, you can't treat your residents. Makes no difference that you're a doctor or not. You're still going to abide by what the licensing rules and regulations are by Title 22. It really doesn't matter who the licensee is or the title that you want to put behind, So they're like, what do you mean? And this is my resident. I said, well, go read Title 22. Familiarize yourself with what that means.
Yeah, that's not the tricky part per se, but there's just so many, and you think coming from a medical background, they would understand the aspect of regulations that are different, but there's that aspect of I'm a genius maybe, or I know what the hell I'm doing in my own business or in my own profession, and how does that transfer over to maybe the real estate aspect? And you're saying that's what it sounds like you're saying is a little bit of a struggle, is like how to actually create some proper expectations, maybe, so to speak, of, all right, if you're stepping into this new environment, yeah, it's maybe a little bit of a lateral move, but it's still very different than what you were doing before. Is that correct?
Yeah. What I like to tell them as a joke, and anyone for that matter, I like to tell them, just because, let's say you have a headache, right? And generally speaking, you get a Tylenol, ibuprofen, takes the headache away, right? Does that make you a doctor? No. No.
Hey, I don't know. No, yeah.
You just need to go to school to become a doctor, right? Same with this. You just need to read and see what this means to be an owner of this type of facility.
Are you seeing people, are they coming to you more so to, hey, just invest my money, make some passive income, stay in my profession? Or are you starting to maybe now see more people who are saying, I'm looking for a way out and I want to actually own and make this my career?
It's a very creative field. You can come in being just a landlord. You can come in being a landlord and an operator. Remember, there are two components, the real estate and the operations, right? It depends on what you have in mind. It's a different kind of advice or a different path that I can guide you towards, To your point here, to answer your question, a lot of them, they're coming, if we're talking about real estate, from the multifamily type of background, right? And they're thinking, oh, there's similarities there. It's still tenant, right? And I can charge a lot more. I have, let's just use as an example, the 6 beds, which is very small, right? The smallest. I have 6 residents there. I can charge $5,000-$6,000 per resident, right? Whereas a multifamily in a unit, I can go, $15,000, $2,000, whatnot, right? Well, it's not quite the same. That's where, again, I have to educate and I have to ask them, what do you have in mind? What is your intention here? Do you want to just buy it as an investment? Do you want to be an owner-operator? Do you want to be an absentee owner? What do you want? And once you're telling me that, then I can guide you and I can tell you, I think this is not for you, or I think this is for you, or if you want to do it, maybe do it in this capacity and so forth.
You know what? One thing you mentioned that was really interesting to me, and I didn't know this. So, yeah, there are people in the multifamily space that are just looking at the landscape, and they're looking at assisted living, senior housing as this is a very strong place to be in. Just being that there's a lot of like a lot of kind of baby
Mhm.
boomers. It's just getting there. There's a big wave that's happening. And they're looking at it that way, like it's just another tenant. But one thing that you mentioned that was interesting, the other day was the uh, how easy it is to evict a apartment tenant, and how you are virtually stuck with um, a tenant in like a senior care facility.
Yeah.
Kind of share a little bit about that, because that's something that I didn't know. Because you were mentioning for people that uh, are in kind of assisted living or senior housing, that they should be really careful on their intake on the front end.
Yes. Yes. One of the so these care facilities, they're under the Department of Social Services,
Mm.
all of them, and it doesn't matter what the state is. And the sole purpose of the Department of Social Services, the licensing department, is to make sure that the residents are well taken care of, they're safe and all that, right? So the hardest part is to prove to the licensing department that the notice of eviction and notice of increase in rent, they're the hardest to prove because you have to document everything. And even then, even if it gets to the point that, yes, this resident, for example, I've had many, many residents that they didn't have money, they outlived their funds.
Mm.
And the families, they couldn't chip in anymore, right? What do you do at that point would be a notice of eviction, like with any other tenant, right? You would well, here there's a certain protocol to follow. Bottom line is, even though that resident cannot afford anymore to pay, you cannot evict them. You continue to care for that resident until, with the help of licensing, you can relocate that resident. But relocation is really, really hard. And it can take, I had residents personally in the very beginning when I first started 20 plus years ago, where I cared for them for at least a couple of years with no pay because I couldn't. So it's very important. Everybody runs their business differently, right? It's very important to know what your goal is here, what your, even if you're going to have an empty bed, a vacancy, it's better to have it, to wait a little bit to find a better, fit in a resident than to just say, oh, I'm just going to get anybody. I have bills to pay. I don't want to have a vacant bed here, an empty bed.
So when people are coming to you and they're looking to start to invest, whether it's somebody in medicine or not, and you're vetting them and trying to find out what's going to make the most sense for you, are these the negative aspects or the potential pitfalls? Are those things are you going over that at the beginning with them as well to say, hey, look, here's because right, and I think like to Antonio's point, like I'm not saying you do this, but hey, if you do this, you're going to get a 20% return every year. And then like small little writing. It's like, here's what all the bad things that could happen that I'm not talking to you about. So do you put that up front for them so they have some proper expectation? Like, all right, you can expect this, but here's some negatives that might happen. And this is how you can pivot, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. I'm very straightforward and I don't want to waste my time, let alone their time. I'm trying to understand and get a better picture from them as to what their goal is. Because, and if they come and say, and of course, I know what questions to ask and all that. 99%, they don't necessarily know what that is. For the past, I want to say, maybe at least 10 years, 10, 12 years, all of these investors, and when I say investors, I kind of put everybody in the same category, whether you come from a medical background, whether you come from multifamily, all of these people that they're looking to invest into this type of facility, they see the dollar sign in it. They see it. They don't know how to extract it. And I tell you why they don't know. Because it's in operations. Right? You can't just They'll look and they see the real estate and they understand, okay, this is not going to go away, because this type of business, um, it the two human needs, basic human needs that we have, a roof over our head and the need for care. This is never going to go away, right? And it satisfies that. So they see that. They don't know how to extract a dollar amount. So then my this is where I come in with the education on the operation side.
So I want to kind of explore that a little bit further. So when any investor comes in, what you're saying is some of the things that they miss are operational blind spots.
Correct.
When looking at it. What are some of those things that these owners and investors miss? Like what are those kind of specific operational things that they miss?
First of all, they miss it completely. The operations. They don't even think about the operations, right? They're thinking this is a money making machine, which it is. If you know how to operate it, right? The most important thing is to understand that you're dealing with human life. You have no control over when people are going to die, go to the hospital. You have no control over how many vacancies you're going to have or not, right? So you have to explain that to them. Like the little investors, I'm going to go back to the 6 beds. They only have somebody that never owned a facility like this. Oh, you only have 2 residents, or you only have 3 residents. It's no good. Well, even if I would have 6 residents, I would get you into contract with 6 residents. I can guarantee you're going to have 6 by the time I close. You might have 1. So it's all about in what your goal is here. What are your projections? How are you going to run your business? What's your business plan here, right? Are you going to be an owner-operator yourself? Are you going to be an absentee owner? If you're going to be an absentee owner, you got to hire this and this and this. You got to structure it differently like this. And so when you talk to them like that, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. This is not that simple. Money is not just flowing around, like I thought it is. Yeah, it is. It is. But
Only,
you know how
only if you do.
Yeah, you have to know how to catch them.
So a lot of people, it sound like they're just coming in almost, you call it, Antonio, let's call it the ignorance tax. Like there's just stuff that they don't really know or maybe aware of. And then it's, oh crap, this is a legit business that I need to run here and I'm completely unprepared.
Yes. And to be honest with you, I love them to come that way because I can actually teach them, right? Versus someone that already has some ideas and they're like, yeah, no, you know better. Well, sure, okay. Not with me. We don't have to work together.
So when you're sitting down with people, and you mentioned at the beginning, it's about like you're very curious, you like to investigate, but you have this trust factor, so to speak. It goes both ways, though. Is that right? So, and I'd like to just maybe have you just touch on that a little bit because I do think that's a challenge for many business owners in general, is they just want to take on any client or any customer, and then not think about the stuff they might have to deal with down the line. So if you can maybe just touch on that for a little bit.
I am very particular myself. I've done that in the very beginning. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have not accepted clients that I knew in my heart. I knew it in my gut that I shouldn't. So those were lessons that I learned very fast. And I am very, very picky, even if it's a client that I know it can bring a lot of business. If it's not a match and if I don't feel it, I very politely, refuse to work with that client. Why? Because I'm the professional. And if you're not going to meet me halfway, this is going to be a partnership or collaboration, right? If I'm moving towards you halfway and you're not meeting me there, or you're not trusting what I'm saying, you're always going to feel like, oh no, I'm smarter than she is. We can't work together.
Yeah. It's sticking with operations. What is one operational decision that you see operators avoid in this space that ends up costing them the most long term?
If we're talking about the small businesses, let's say up to 15 beds or so, what I see them is not treating this as a business and operating as a business. Is very much more a mom and pop, and I don't feel like they put themselves, first. And this is just a business, if it makes sense. I've seen a lot of families in a small business operation. I've seen a lot of families not managing the business correctly, and it took a toll on their families. You know, with anything over 15 beds, there are different requirements. That's fine. It's going to be more commercial, but up to 15 beds, this is what I see the most problem.
When you say not running it like a business, what would you say is maybe the top thing that for you to say you have to do this that they're avoiding?
Hiring caregivers. I think that this is a business that you created, and you run this. It does not run you, hire people, be more organized, more disciplined. Don't involve your whole family. Go take time away with your family from this together. You run it. Don't let it run you. And I think this is probably true for anything in life,
Yeah.
But it's so easy for a small. I remember when I first started it, and this goes back to your original question, Antonio, when we first started. Goes back to the education. I wanted to see what impact it would have on, and it does have on all these families. And I didn't like that because for me, this was a business, right? I wanted to see if it makes sense for me to put my energy, efforts, money into it. It is a good business. I chose to do it, but not the way they were doing it. So in the very beginning, I didn't make any money, but I did hire staff. Your expenses are going to be the same whether you have one resident or 6, and I had to bring money out of pocket for a long time. But I said, no, I will have my time away from this for my family. I'm running this, and I see how can I improve it? What changes can I make, right, to make it successful? But I'm not going to work myself just to save some money.
Yeah. Is there anything that if you had to look back that you'd say, I wish I had maybe done this sooner? You said you're in it now for 20 years. And I've did it my own way. I didn't follow anybody else's path. But even looking back the last maybe 10 years, is there something you say, man, I wish I did that maybe 5 years sooner that would have really made a big difference or added a lot of value?
Yes. As far as one of the things that I wish I would have done sooner, again, I'm going back to the mom and pop. Everything is done manually, and I wish I would have sooner, implement more computer stuff, more, that would
More technology.
Technology, yes, that would save a lot of my time, save a lot of my staff's time. Easy to find, not so much paperwork. That would be the one thing that I wish I would have done.
Would you say that's like the gold standard today, that most facilities are
Yes.
digitized, or is there a good chunk of them that are still running like, in the 80s or something?
Yes, a good chunk of them.
What chunk would that be? Is like every other one, like half of them, or?
I would say in the industry, and I dare to say that I'm pretty accurate because I work with them every day. 60% of them, if not to 70, they're still, yes.
So hold on. So if we looked at like 100 random facilities all throughout the United States, 70% of them have not integrated technology at a high level, so it's more efficient. Or is there like 30% that have?
30 to maybe 40% they do have. And I'm talking about the small facilities because, again, anything over 15 beds has different requirements.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that whether you like it or not, there's some system mandatory by whoever the government, the power is. It's going to have them do. But anything below 15, and all my facilities are below 15, up to 15 max, right? The medium size.
Yeah.
They don't have that. And I wish I would have done it a lot sooner.
When you, when you're looking at different businesses and you're getting, different deal flow that comes to you in this space, what is something that you see when something comes across your desk and you're like, you're secretly looking for this because it's rare that this business has it. It is such a differentiator. It's really really good. So for example, like with other industries, um, when we look at like maybe a type of software that they're using, or if they're using a like an operating system of some kind, like it tells me a lot about the business
Mhm.
versus not having it. So is there something that you look at when deal flow comes across your desk, like, oh, they have this thing, this is such a leg up compared to everybody else?
Yeah, there are several things that I look at. First of all, uh, number of licensed residents. How many residents you're licensed for? Second, I look at the real estate. How many private bedrooms? How many share bedrooms? How many bathroom in each bedroom? Right. The area where you're located, the particular real estate, and then from an operational standpoint, what kind of waivers, what kind of programs, county programs I can have here, what kind of level of care I can do here,
Mm,
you know? So if I can match some of these, then I say that is, I don't care how the business performs because I know what I'm going to do with it, you know?
mm,
I really don't care for this is an experienced operator, right? Uh, I never cared about how much my businesses when I bought them, I never cared how much they did because I knew I'm going to change things. But I cared to see what can I work with, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what kind of license, what kind of waivers I have, this and that. It, can I do what I want to do? And I was able to do all of them.
so I kind of want to pivot a little bit over to culture, because we've been talking about operations, and there's a lens, an operational lens, when it comes to this industry, but culture is huge too, with staff, with even the families that are coming into the community with their elderly. But I'd like a little bit of background with you too, because I've met you and we've known each other for years now, and you told me a little bit about your background of coming to America, and the culture, the mindset that you had coming into America, and just getting after it, not looking at yourself as like a victim or I'm anything, and just literally getting to work. So tell us a little bit about where you came from, your background, and how that's helped you in your personal and professional career.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Romania. I moved to the United States in 2001, November. Um, I was originally, I had a lot of American friends, but I was trying to plug into the Romanian community
Mm-hmm.
in Sacramento, where I'm from. Um, as with anything, it comes with the good and the bad, right? It
Yeah,
depends. It
you
depends.
could say that. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends how you look at it and everything. And I can tell you for a fact, uh, a lot of things have happened, and I'm super, super blessed, and I'm very grateful for everything. But at the time, I came here with $200, and that's all.
$200.
200 bucks.
Until dang.
That's all I had. That's all I had. But when I made a decision, and the circumstances were in such a way that I was able to stay here and start working on the paperwork and all that, um, you know, emotionally and psychologically, you have, at least for me, I needed to see if I'm strong enough to do that because my whole family at the time was back in Romania. My son was back to Romania, right? So there was a certain protocol that I had to follow in order to bring here, right? But the most important thing that I realized was that I have to become a new person. Anything and everything that I was before, there's not going to apply here. And you guys know this very well. I mean, even if you have a degree, the degree, it's not recognized here, right? So you have to,
So, like, if you get a degree from abroad, and
yeah,
that's what you mean. Okay.
yeah, there's no equivalent to that degree here. So that's what I mean by it. I had to reinvent myself. I had to develop a new identity and to feel that I belong here, you know, and one foot is in front of the other.
Who'd you actually need to become? Right? Because you have the foundation of who you are, but when you say reinvent yourself, what did that actually look like? Or at least what did you think it looked like?
Well, being on my own, because I was very sheltered back in Romania, right? My whole family is there. I had even though I grew up in the communist time and it was really, really very tough, and we can get into that if you like, but that was a time that, you know, I felt very sheltered by my parents, and, my whole family is there. Whereas here, you don't know anyone.
Mhm.
You don't know how things work. You don't know who to ask for a piece of advice. You don't know nothing, how the system works, nothing. So you're yourself, and against the system. And I tell you, um, what I did, you're going to laugh, but I'm just going to share it. I remember I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning one time. It was 2 on the dot because I looked at the clock.
Mhm.
And I couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't breathe. I think I had anxiety,
Like a panic attack or
panic
something.
attack,
Yeah.
something. And all I did, literally, I just got out of the bed and went against my back against the wall. And I just said, it's just you and me now. I was talking to God. I said, it's just you and me now. But I knew I'm going to make it. I didn't know how.
Mhm.
I didn't even care to know how. I just had that conviction. Okay, this is it. From this point on, I'm going to become the person that I need to.
How do you think, in the grand scheme of starting a business and then running a business, how do you think that experience has actually led you to become a better owner, just instead of owner operator, just an owner? Like, what does that experience, shaped you to become somebody that you weren't? But how would you say this is how it helped me actually become a better person and a better leader?
I understood that, at a very primal level, if you want to call it that way, that I needed to surround myself with people that I can learn from, because I needed mentors, right? So, but I knew that much, that I didn't want to allow myself to be um, around people that I have nothing to learn from. I don't admire, there's no value, to being in their presence. So I intentionally look to surround myself with those kind of people and learn from them and bring my ideas to them, or just ask them, hey, I need help here. This blah, blah, blah.
Where do you think that came from? Because I think it's really refreshing that you're saying that, because I know Dan and I, we've had our fair share of people that we worked with where like they want to be the smartest person in the room, and it's such a ego trip where they're like I can answer anything, and it is wildly uncomfortable. Like I've been in some masterminds where I've been in some kind of group sessions, and I look around and I'm like, man, I am like the biggest bitch compared, like I am a small fry compared to anyone else in here. And it can be a little uncomfortable for folks, but you're saying that that's something that you actively seeked, that like I want to be in the presence of people that are greater than me, just so I can learn and I can get better.
Yes, 100%. And one of those people, an older gentleman,
Antonio Garcia.
If you're older, you're looking really damn good, bro. Like
57.
you're aging very good. Say I look young.
one of those, his name was Buzz Oates, and he would
Bazotes?
Buzz Oates.
Bazotes.
Buzz
Oates. Oh, Buzz Oates.
Buzz
I was
Oates.
gonna say that was the coolest name, like in the whole wide
Well,
world.
Marvin Oates, but he was going by Buzz. And
Badass.
he was the primary developer in the greater area of Sacramento, San Joaquin County, super in commercial real estate. And he told me one time, because I worked for him for a little bit, amazing gentleman. And he told me, never, ever you want to be the smarter person in the room. Your goal, it always has to be the humblest person in the room, because you always want to learn. Never think that you learn everything. Never think that you know everything in any area of your life. And I have to say, he was one of the most humblest people that I've met. And if you go in that, I mean, he was at the time, I'm talking about probably 2005, I think it was. He was Forbes, you know, magazine gave him, I think he was number 71 as far as being rich and everything
Oh,
in the
okay.
key, wealthy.
Top
Yeah.
100.
Yes,
Top
top
100.
100.
That's not too bad. You know, when you made a statement, and I do feel like I get what you're saying, but I feel like people misconstrue it when you're talking about surrounding yourself with people that have something to give you, right? And some people view that as that just sounds transactional. It's like if they can't give you something, then you're not gonna be around them. But uh, from what I hear, and this is the way I think we interpret it as well, is that it's just people who give you something positive, right? It doesn't have to always just be, well, they're richer than me or they're smarter than me. It could just be they give me support, they give me love, or they give me empathy. And I just want to clarify, that's what you're talking about, right? It's not that aspect
Yes.
of like, you can't make me more money, so I'm going to push you away. It's just people that can actually help lift you up in some aspect of your life.
That's gonna last, right? If you just look transactional, it's a one done and it's not. But if you want it's impact over impression, right? An
Yeah.
impact, sure, you can have an impact. Right now, I'll go away from my Uber and I'm like forgetting. Impression is gonna linger, right?
Yep.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, because there are all those people too who want to get mentors, like you mentioned, but
Mhm.
then it's just teach me everything. It's like, what do you like? We're doing this together. It's like you said, it's a relationship. We're working together to help each other. It's not just me giving you my 30 years of. I want to see something from you. I want to see you get better, but you got to do the work too.
Yeah, and I was very and they saw that in me because I was very, and again, very blessed to even be in those rooms. Super blessed. How I got there, it's a whole story. Never look. It all started, like I said, it's you and me now. And how doors open, circumstances, people came into my life, opportunity presented themselves. It's something that I cannot even begin to tell you, right? And they didn't have to give me the time of day. They didn't, right? So, but I was so appreciative of the time, and they understood that I'm looking for knowledge than anything else. Just let me be in your environment for a second so I can learn something so I can apply to, whatever I want to do. Or tell me if I have a blind spot here. And we all have them.
Yeah.
You know what I noticed too is that um, when people kind of are in that role or in that position, and their career progresses, they just get older, they're just more mature, they're more of a veteran in the space, and it's easy for them to identify someone else that's like younger and also hungry. It's like they recognize themselves,
Yeah.
and so I do see that there's a fair share of people that like I want to be in those spaces, I want to be in those rooms, I want to be uncomfortable, and then as time goes by, like those are actually the people that are very giving at
Yeah.
the same time with someone else that's kind of young and up and coming that that you just see like yeah, I like to pour into this person too, so it kind of comes like full circle
Yeah.
too a little bit, right?
Yes.
Is that something that you've experienced as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because if they fell for 1 second, I already poured enough. It's just I don't see any results or nothing, no appreciation, no, implementation of what they're saying. They would have stopped.
Love it. We talk about, and I feel like that's a very encompassing life strategy, so to speak. And, you had this thing where, we've talked about this a lot, where in business, a lot of owners are always looking for that next tactic that's going to get them over the edge, or like, just teach me something else that I can do. And not knowing that a lot of it's really their psychology and their mindset. And you mentioned something on your the discovery form for the show about your strategy is people first, transactions second,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I thought that was like very, very interesting as a strategy itself. Can you just like touch on that, how that parlays into business and then also maybe a little bit of life as well?
Yes. Well, it's especially for in every aspect. But if I am to take, for example, just my real estate career, there's a lot of we all work, we all have to live, right? And we all have to eat per se. But I've noticed so many of my colleagues in the real estate, they were just looking at the commission 100%. It didn't even matter who that person is. If they weren't making the commission that they wanted, they wouldn't take that client. And that never sat well with me, because at the end of the day, if you serve and you're another human being to the best of your ability, that human, first of all, you've done what you're supposed to do, and the blessings are going to come afterwards. In my opinion, they were putting it backwards. That's how I felt the whole time. So I never was interested. I've had clients that I steered away from some very good deals that they could have made those deals. I could have made a very, very good commission. But then they would be the one stuck with making the mortgage payment, stuck with that piece of real estate and all that. If I can't look myself in the mirror in the morning and say, hey, good morning, this is a beautiful day, that's all that matters for me. And believe me, this was not done. This is not a strategy. This is who I am.
You've mentioned that human connection has been your most effective marketing strategy. It's something that you wrote down. What does that look like in practice?
Well, I guess some of the things we talked a little bit about it in different other here. It's if I don't feel a connection, and if I don't feel like you're actually truthful in what you're saying, in what you want to do, you just kind of want to play around a little bit and pick my brains and, waste my time. By now, I have a very good radar for that,
Mhm.
Then if I don't have that, I'm going to very politely say, either you're not ready or we're not a good fit. I'm not afraid to fire a client or not get a new client.
There's an aspect to that I wish, as somebody who has a medical background, that I wish more medical providers and medical doctors took that same approach, right? Because they'll just, I don't want to lose a client, or I don't want to fire a patient,
Yeah.
but then, you're sitting with them and they're not going to follow. It's like essentially following their treatment plan, right? And you always give this great example. It's I give you a 10-day medication pack, and I can clearly tell you that you're going to do it for 5 days, or as soon as you start feeling good, you're going to stop taking it. And then you're
Yeah.
going to be back in my office 3 weeks later with the same symptoms, and then you're dealing with the same headache. And that's just an aspect that I find too often, that we want to almost help everybody, but I think we don't clearly define what helping somebody actually looks like.
Yes.
Right? You're helping them by saying,
Yes.
this isn't for you. I'm going to set you up to fail.
Mhm.
Instead of the one person like, well, I'm going to help them because I'm going to set them up for real estate futures. Like they're going to fail. So you're actually hurting them.
Yeah. Or I'm not a good fit for you, but I can find somebody else that I know for a fact, in good conscience, that
Yeah.
they're going to be a better fit for
Refer
you.
them to somebody that can still provide value.
Yes, 100%.
Well, one thing I wanted to dive into, because at least even for me, and I know like even some of my cousins and family members, is that looking at senior housing is something that I'm going to have to look into in the not too distant future. And a lot of people are. And so I'd like to kind of get into that space where what are some do's and don'ts or pros and cons that if someone is like, hey, we got to start looking at, putting grandma into a place.
Mhm.
And maybe we want to have maybe a larger institution, like a larger facility,
Mhm.
or something that's smaller. So let's just say you were advising me. What are some things that I should look out for?
Well, I would say, first of all, let's see what your grandma's level of care is.
So first and foremost, like,
Yes.
what's her condition?
What's her condition? What can or cannot do, what can or cannot do, on her own.
Mhm.
Um,
It's like bathing,
Level,
eating,
yeah.
like having medications. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, correct. Yes. And how cognitive she is. Sometimes you're cognitive, but bodily you're very impaired.
Mhm.
So then you got to find a place where you still get the help that you need, but cognitively you still stimulated enough.
Mhm.
That's really very important.
Are there situations where that you've seen where people are limited by the money that they have, and so
Yes.
it's like, oh man, grandma really needs
Mhm.
this type of facility, but it's so out of our reach. And do people lie, or is it just they just try to force grandma into another place just because of resources? Like, what? Tell us a little bit about what you've seen in in that regard.
Yeah, especially if grandma per se then doesn't have any kind of funds of her own, it's really very hard on the family to be. They want to, most of the time they want to, but everything costs,
Yeah.
and depending on the level of care that grandma is, you try to advise. I can't pinpoint now to tell you what to do, but it all starts with that level of care, and then based on that, we go into the financing and see maybe, let's say grandma is a vet, right? And then my next question would be, so are the benefits in place yet? Because she can apply for her vet benefits. And if they say no, then that's one thing that they can do on her behalf. It might take a while, but that's going to open some more funds for her. A lot of people, they don't know this. Long-term insurance is another thing, and so forth.
Yeah, I remember when my mom and uncle put my grandmother in housing. My mom was prepared, but my uncle, yeah, again, you look at the cost,
Yeah.
and his initial reaction was, "Holy shit!" Like,
Yeah.
and my mom was like, "We ain't been saving for all this year. Like, this is what we have the money for." But if you don't have somebody who thinks long term, and again, most of us don't want to ever think about at some point my grandma or my parents are not going to be here, right? So we just kind of push it and we'll deal with it when they need the care, and then you roll along and here's what's going to cost you monthly, and then to your point, Tony, I was like, I can't afford that. So what do I do, right? And then you're kind of stuck between either maybe picking a facility you would probably not want to put them in,
Yeah.
or it's just, do we just then keep them at home and try to make it work with a part-time aide or something like that, which is not really conducive.
It's not. I mean, through the county, and again, it depends on the insurance. You might be able to the county to pay like an in-home health for a couple of days, a couple of hours a day, or something like that. But again, it goes back to the level of care. Is that enough? It might not be enough.
What would you, outside of the layperson who's looking to get a relative in a facility, looking at the person who wants to get their feet wet, or they're watching this and they're that burned out doctor who's just, I don't know how much longer I can take this, and maybe a doctor my age who's 42 and looking down the barrel of another 10 or 15 or 20 years in a career that's hard as hell right now. They're saying, I'm looking for some alternatives. How would you maybe tell them to kind of dip their toe in the water when it comes to senior living to get the process started, that maybe either investing or owning one day?
I would, if they're still going to continue to work their job as a doctor, this at this point they would 100% be just absentee owners. So then, if you go that route, I would say buy either two very small facilities, two or three. And I work with a lot of doctors that they did this, as a package, or buy a medium size, a 15 bed or so, and then you hire all the people. There's no way you can be the manager of that facility, and just start like this and be in contact to that manager, kind of to understand what this business is about. Once you retire, if you want to take over as an operator, full operator, sure. Otherwise, you can continue to have it this way, you know.
What are some things that I know last night we were kind of mentioning it, and this is kind of no secret at this point, and I mean this kind of lovingly, is that there's a lot of medical professionals that kind of have this, ego, God complex. Like, I know everything, and you mentioned also yesterday that the ones that come in with these attributes are the best to work with, and they see the most success. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? When there's healthcare professionals that, hey, they come in with this, and this, they're the best ones.
Um, I don't remember exactly what I
It was
was.
about like humility,
Come on, Sorina.
coaching. They like they were just humble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we
that
talked
was one
about
of them.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Even now here, we talked about this being humble and, that just wanting to understand, I want to do this. I can't be an operator right now, but I want to be later. For example, what can I do? And they really, really trust what I say. They are coming to a professional the way I would go to them as a professional,
That's it right
you
there.
know? Yeah. But not that many,
Well, it's
if we're talking about doctors.
yeah, we are, and that's the same aspect to your point of when somebody comes in to see the doctor is looking at them saying, "All right, well, I'm the expert, so let's go with what I'm telling you." But then they go to somebody like you and they want to tell you how you should be running things or how they should be doing it. So, I told you do a good job of bringing this up, but this aspect of coachability,
Yeah.
right? It's like you're gonna come in as the mentee or the junior associate, so to speak. You have to be willing to be coached.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, about there, a lot of these residents over the years, their children, right, the families, they are doctors. So they're trying to tell me, they're in my facility. So a lot of them, they're trying to tell me this and this and this should be done. Right. And, it's one thing to have a conversation, it's another thing to tell me. So when we get to that point, then I say, maybe this is not a good fit for your loved one. Because what's going to happen here, it's going to happen based on the way I run the business.
Mhm.
Because I have the best interest of this resident. This is my resident. I'm responsible for this human life.
I want to switch gears here a little bit because it sounds like, especially with background in Romania. I mean, growing up in a communist country at the time, like that's so even just for myself with friends in the Latin community where like they've come from countries that were communist. It's like it's a very different upbringing and understanding, and the mentorship that you've received, the coaching that you've done, and it right now what you're also doing is you wrote a book recently. You've kind of started offering a couple different things for people that are looking to get into the space, but also about mindset too, that there's a powerful mindset component to all this. Can you expand on some of these new ventures that you launched?
Yeah, mindset. Mindset is everything. If you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to grow, you're not going to accomplish anything in this life. It is my strongest belief. So every day, every minute that you breathe, you have to look for new things to learn, how you can help better other person. Then you can help yourself by doing that. I do, yes, I can give anybody who's interested in coaching mindset or coaching in the real estate, they can go to my website, tanasegroup.com/coaching. They can pick which one of the, options there they want coaching to, and I'll be happy to.
What are some things they can look forward to if they want to go with the mindset side of things?
With the mindset side of things, it would be very much custom to where they are in their journey and what they're hoping to accomplish. Would be a very thorough assessment of their history. So then we see what we need to change and getting them where they want to be.
What's the biggest when you have somebody engage in coaching with you on that aspect of it? What do you say is the biggest challenge that most of those individuals are dealing with with the mindset issue, or the biggest story or belief that they tell themselves, something like that?
Well, everybody, yeah, the biggest one and the most common one, I should say, is confidence in themselves, believing in themselves. Not the fact that they don't think they're worthy. And I know because I've been there myself. I'm not worthy. It's talking about being in those rooms with those powerful people. I felt like what am I doing there? How in the world did I, this must be a mistake. No, confidence at all.
Mhm.
Just to your point, just extremely being very hungry to learn, right? But I didn't feel like I was worth being in those rooms. I didn't feel like I belonged there. And I thought I had a mindset that, you know, I'm never going to achieve this or that, that this or that is not for me. So I would definitely start there as to understanding why do you feel that way? What made you feel that way? And how can we work together to eliminate that kind of thinking and replacing it with a better thinking?
When you're working with individuals and they're making progress, because you talked about that, about you need to have that kind of mindset that you keep getting better and better and better, and you start to see people develop high level confidence where, hey, Sorina, I went to this networking event, and it was all 9-figure earners, and I'm making 6, but I crushed it. What does the next level look like? And from that person who wants to really step into those big rooms, what do you see as the next level for them, and what's required of them to actually achieve it? Because they got their confidence. What comes next?
Well, again, it depends on what they have in mind, what their goal is, right? I can only work with based on the goal that they have. Um, I think the value of anyone, it's everyone's definition. To be successful, it's anyone's definition, right? A lot of times, most of the time, success is defined by financial, achievement. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not. I would rephrase that, and in order to build your confidence, I would say success is when you set a goal and you achieve that goal, no matter how big or small that goal is. That builds confidence, and that takes you to the next level.
I believe that. So, what are some parting words that you'd love to leave the audience with? Words of wisdom.
Which, I mean, that last one was amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say that was a pretty strong one. Yeah, it's just believe in yourself and be your own best friend.
Believe in yourself and be your own best friend. I love it. Sorina, a little bit earlier, you had the website. People can go check you out. And then here's the book, and you're cited and everything. I'm really excited to dive into this. It's called The Drive to Success, True Life Stories from High Performance Entrepreneurs. And I'm really looking forward to reading this. So thank you so much for joining us today.
And we both want to be interviewed for volume number 4, just throwing that out there,
Definitely.
But appreciate you coming on. This was awesome and fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me.
Goodbye,
It's been
everybody.
a pleasure.
All right, guys. Take care.